Yeah, Ryan Smith. I'm the global commercial leader for Astoriom. Excited to be with you today. Astoriom, is a global expert in sample management. We have the broadest range of ICH compliant stability storage, as well as a full suite of biorepository solutions from ambient down to liquid nitrogen storage. And we really focus on curating, holistic solutions with our clients for on-site and off-site sample management. Bringing together the actual sample management, disaster planning, business continuity, as well as maintenance and validation of storage equipment. So whether it's on-site or off-site, we want to take this time and talk about some of the ways we have partnered with our clients to create unique solutions. We're hearing new challenges every day, and certainly this audience here and the room here this week are full of complex challenges that we're here to support.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So let me see if I can advance this appropriately. So R&D samples take many different forms. These can be scientific assets, biological materials, drug product, food product, cosmetic product, anything that would be considered in the research spectrum. And so our clients are typically managing those samples. It can be a CDMO, it can be a CRO, it can be another service provider. It can also be direct with pharmaceutical companies, biotechnology companies, cosmetic research companies, food research companies, and those kinds of companies managing those scientific assets. The collection of those samples can be anywhere from hundreds of samples to millions of samples. And those of us who have been in the industry understand that compromising even one of those samples could compromise research. It could be missed opportunity. It could be innovation delays. In some cases, it could lead to patient illness and possibly death. And so managing these scientific assets is critical for our clients. And many times when we are at the table, we are bringing our client departments together that don't even know one another. So that's why we're sharing with you the integrated approach of comprehensive sample management, including drug and biological samples. When we talk to our clients, they are facing many challenges and risks, and so we'll share some of those with you today. And we also have built our resource guide to accommodate these kinds of questions. In the regulatory environment, it depends on which dimension of research you are. You're facing regulatory requirements and complex global requirements that are different among continents, sometimes different among countries and different among states. But most of us are in the GXP environment where we have CAP regulations, we have ISO regulations, we have ICH regulations. It's a very complicated environment, and so it's important for you to be able to rely on your service providers to hold that accountability.
Yeah,
right.
And we talk about things like climactic temperature zones. Most people are familiar with ambient, maybe even down to liquid nitrogen storage, but some of the elevated temperatures and elevated humidities are conditions that not everyone is prepared to reproduce. And from a cost perspective, a real estate perspective, and an expertise perspective, we're currently supporting over 20 unique climactic zones for our clients globally. And thinking about the scaling challenge that comes with spinning in and out of different temperature profiles, humidity profiles in support of a unique project that might last a year or two for a small number of sample assets, or as Larry mentioned, millions. We really want to take on that scaling challenge and be able to support that anywhere in the world so that our clients can focus on their unique expertise, which most often is not sample management. It's something that they're kind of forced into by way of managing sample assets upstream of storage. So, that's one of the biggest challenges that our clients bring to us, and we're here to talk about throughout the week.
Well, you can see other challenges that clients are facing. Packaging and transport. I know there's a lot of discussions in this particular show around supply chain management and cold chain logistics. So there are lots of packaging difficulties, challenges, complexities. There's temperature management throughout transit that has to be managed with perhaps temperature monitoring devices that are sitting in shipments. There's chain of custody that needs to be managed. There's temperature diaries that have to be completed. There's a lot of data components. There's customs requirements and customs interventions that need to be managed when you're in the transport and logistics. Most of our clients are saying, hey, maybe when we were small, we thought we could manage all those cold chain requirements, but now they're needing to rely on service providers to manage that for them. Focus on their core competencies, focus on how their facilities are built, focus on their teams and expenses, and so cold chain is just one of those additional things that we manage for them. On the disaster front, we have a lot of interest from clients, and this is a trend in the industry, that business continuity and disaster recovery is exceptionally important when you're managing research assets. And so in our environment, we have a lot of agreements with our clients on just business continuity where they're back up. We can jump in. But what we're seeing is that we are having to rescue a lot of shipments and a lot of samples because of disaster recovery, unforeseen. Could be nature, it could be internal power outages and things like that. In the disaster recovery industry, it's a big industry. The stat that floats around there is about 85% of disasters are not natural disasters. They're internal floods, they're internal electric problems, there's lack of maintenance on equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And so we are asked to come in and provide those disaster recovery services as best we can.
Yeah, and I'll say, the best time to build that plan is way before any of these disasters are happening. We just spent some time in Canada last week as part of the International Biorepository Conference, ISBR, and there's a lot of interesting talks there, but I worked a lot with clients on the West Coast in California that after the wildfires last year thought, I don't have a business continuity plan, I need one. And obviously we all live in some danger from a natural disaster perspective, and it really is worth the time and even the expense to plan for these things, because there's no time to react. A UIT has 4 hours from the time the power goes out until temperatures are crossing critical thresholds. So unless you have a partner who's prepared to move material or bring freezers on site or already has them on site, you're really out of options at that point.
Good point. So we're prepared to talk more about the challenges and risks at our booth if you're interested or if you're facing some of these. This slide really talks about the continuum of the biorepository and R&D sample stability, where you go from preclinical research where you start collecting samples and that migrates all the way to drug products and device products, approval processes where things are actually marketed and going forward. So if you notice at the bottom of this slide, it talks about collection. So again, it goes from thousands of collections to possibly millions of collections, whether that's drug product or device supplies, as well as biological fluids, biofluids, tumor slides, pathology slides. And outside of this physical collection, there's also data collection. And so there's lots of trends in the industry now to better manage the data that's associated with these samples so that conclusions can be made, virtual conclusions can be made, and future use of those samples can be proven because there's consent data that you're collecting as well as temperature data and things like that. If we move on to how have we seen our place in providing these gaps to our clients, these are the capabilities that Astorium's been asked to provide.
Yep. So it really does. It really does range from preclinical research through full device and drug product. That's what we see in varied shapes and sizes with varied climactic zones, various ranges and times of study that need to be, they can be from a single basket of material through an entire chamber at a certain condition. And so, we work to provide the right capacity and the right flexibility because we don't know what project is coming next. So we need to have a full range of storage and support clients throughout the entire continuum.
So one of the case studies that we'll share with you, and happy to discuss more of this after this presentation, but this particular case study is a large pharmaceutical company that had a very fragmented approach to how they manage their samples, whether it's drug product or biological samples. And so they had a fragmented approach across their locations. They also had a fragmented approach to how their teams interacted. And so this is an example of where we provided one group, one particular service in the storage environment, and we actually were able to get their teams together for a more integrated approach and bring their teams into a more integrated approach so that they could have more comprehensive coverage from a sample management standpoint. And now they are outsourcing their sample management and focusing on their development teams in their core competencies. The next case study is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's one of the largest CROs in the world, and over time they had built up their own internal stability storage capabilities, and a stability chamber is something you buy and you kind of set it and forget it from an age perspective, and their fleet had grown to be about 10 plus years old, and they started having failures they didn't plan for. So now you have material that has to be in a continuous study for 1 to 2 years or more, and the chamber that is storing them goes down. You don't have the flexibility to pivot to another chamber with the same climactic conditions, so you have to work with an outsourced partner. We were already their disaster recovery partner, so we were able to bring that material onto our site. We provided the capacity they needed with the zones they needed, but now they've realized more and more they have no plan to phase in a new fleet of their own chambers, which is a massive expense and takes a lot of very careful planning to get material out, move the physical chambers out, and move new ones into the exact same space. That is an undertaking that they were not prepared to continue with, given the scale of their operations and these challenges. So they went to a much broader outsourced model because of the geographical support we could provide, and they moved away from their own insourced strategy, which had worked for them for 10 years, but they had not planned for the phase out of that operation.
Yeah, good. Two case studies again that we're willing to talk more about at our booth. And so we would encourage you, we're at booth 541. We do have best practices guide, a resource guide. We also have a QR code that links directly with the website that walks you through this. But there are basically 3 outsourcing models for our clients and for most companies that are managing biological samples. One is a full outsourcing model where you engage your own core competencies and you outsource all of the other services to service providers. The second one is that you use your service providers and you engage your service providers to scale for you because you have volumes, you have bespoke needs that are best suited with a partner who has the accountability to do that. And then the third model is a business continuity and a disaster recovery partner, either on a secondary or tertiary level. I'm reminded of Hurricane Sandy when lots of the universities were not ill-prepared for that hurricane, but they were in their 4th and 5th level of disaster recovery. So it's important to have that backup so that everything's covered if something would happen. So thank you again for attending. We're at booth 541, Astoriom.
Thank you so much.